Let's talk about making choices. What choices do you make? How do you make your choices? What informs those choices? Life presents itself daily with varieties of options before us, depending on circumstances and what is going on. Now, listen to this. A scribe approached and said to Jesus, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus answered him, "Foxes have dens and birds of the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head." Another of his disciples said to him, "Lord, let me go first and bury my father." But Jesus answered him, "Follow me, and let the dead bury their dead." This can be a little confusing, whether Jesus is harsh, whether Jesus is not sensitive to the human conditions here. For example, burying the dead is a huge responsibility. Burying the dead is a huge corporal work of mercy. And here we see discipleship in the context of choices. Jesus is calling these guys, but Jesus has a goal. So here it becomes whether sentiment, whether emotion will override rationality and purpose. Jesus has a purpose, and the purpose becomes a fundamental driving force for the choices he makes. So Jesus here is teaching us the importance of making choices, good choices, healthy choices in our lives. Most times we find ourselves in dilemma, and this passage, Matthew chapter 8, from 18 to 22, helps us to analyze when we find ourselves in conflicts, in dilemma, where we have to choose A from B, or B from A, or C from D, D from C. What choices do you make? What informs your choices? Are your choices based on emotions, driven by your emotions and sentiments and feelings? Are your choices ephemeral? They kind of lacking deep qualities? And when you find yourself confronted by thoughts, by choices, by opinions in your head, how do you make your decision? Jesus says to this man, "Let the dead bury the dead." Not that Jesus doesn't have care, not that he doesn't have affection or compassion for the bereaved or for the dead, but Jesus takes us to the level of keeping our focus on real life issues. Follow me. That's the important thing here, discipleship. But then, burying the dead is a secondary choice. So in this case, it's all about the choices we make in life, how those choices inform our goals, or how our goals inform the choices we make, and how much our choices drive our goals and our vision and our aspiration. So if you are finding yourself conflicted at this point, go and read this passage, Matthew chapter 8 from 18, and tell yourself the important thing is what matters. Every other thing will come as a follow-up. God bless you. Amen.